Welcome to JasonWhiskyWise. My name is Jason. Welcome to this whiskey review here on the channel where they're going to be continuing on my Mortlach series where we're looking into the new Mortlach expressions released here in the market. And there are actually three of them over here. So we've got the 12, the 16 and the 20-year-old. And if you haven't missed the last video, I'll leave it linked here in the top corner to a playlist for all the Mortlach whiskies, and also at the end of the video they'll be linked on the screen. So the older core range from Mortlach was the Mortlach Rare Old, there was a Mortlach 18-year-old, and there was a Mortlach 25-year-old. And the new ones that have now come in are the 12-year-old to replace that one, the 16-year-old to replace the 18, and a 20-year-old to replace the 25. Now, swap them all away. My favorite Mortlach of all time has to be the Mortlach Flora and Fauna 16-year-old, and the new one that's just come out is the Mortlach 16-year-old, but it's called the Distillers Dram. So we're going to be comparing the two at the end of the video, as it's one of my favorite whiskies, and I've just managed to secure a bottle for a phenomenal price. Well, actually, it's an astronomical price, but I'll talk about that at the end of the video as well. So let me get my sample of this. Now, these are press samples, and I gotta say thank you to the Pre-R company, but it will not affect my review, as I'm going to critique this either way because I'm a fan of Mortlach. So, pour this out there. We'll get started into this one. Now, it is a 16-year-old whiskey, bottled at an ABV of 43.4%, I believe it says. Yep, 43.4. I don't know why they didn't just go for that 46% in the new Mortlach expressions, considering a lot of people did want to see a higher ABV to their Mortlachs. The actual cask maturation is in ex-sherry. The distillery is the Mortlach Distillery. They're owned by the parent company, Diageo, and they're located in Speyside, Scotland, specifically Dufftown. So they actually have their next door neighbours to Balvenie, Caninvie, Glenfiddich, actually all of the William Grants, and I believe even they had one of the older Diageo distilleries called Pitchivik, which was not too far, but I'll have to double check that. So, in terms of price point, the new bottle over there sits in front of Mr. Bananas at £80 a bottle, and it's no longer a 50 cl, what the older core range was. This is now a 70 cl, so it is going to match also with the Flora and Fauna, which I'm excited about because if any of you know my story with whiskey, especially Speyside whiskies, the first ever Speyside Scotch whiskey I ever tried, well, Speyside whiskey, was a Flora and Fauna Mortlach 16-year-old, and I've always been really loving this whiskey. And also, if you guys know Roy from Aquavitae, we always had this thing that where we just sort of connected when we first spoke, and we spoke about the Flora and Fauna Mortlach. It was just one of those things that, you know what, we've tried, both of us love this whiskey, and, you know, from there it just sort of got into a friendship. And raise a toast to you, Roy. We're both going to hopefully share a bottle of that Mortlach soon, because I'm, fingers crossed, going to have another one in the next few days. So, this one over here, it's £80. It's no longer exclusive. I just love hearing the fact that it's no longer exclusive. It is part of the core range. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the nose. Into the nose. You'll like it. So first impressions on the nose for this Mortlach 16, and it's called the Distillers Dram. This one straight away on the nose, it's got a much more approachable style compared to the 12-year-old on the nose. Vanilla sponge cake, and a nice warm vanilla sponge cake. Red apples, red pears, raisins, figs, sultanas, prunes, dark cherries. That's like those really dark cherries. Cola cubes. Wow, this has got so much. I just love this whiskey. It's got this earthier sort of like, it's like as if you'd be digging up the ground. It's almost got that earthier character to it. And for me, it's also like this dampish, musty sort of dunnage warehouse. Whereas if you walk into if you ever go to a warehouse yourselves, and you're ever experiencing a distillery and you can smell that angel share in the atmosphere for like a sweeter sherry cask character, it's almost like that damp sort of sweeter angel share character. And just on the end of it, it's got this nice sweeter muscovado sugar that's almost caramelizing in a pan and it's sort of melting together. Really lovely nose. I can't wait to jump into the palate. I'm so excited. Let's get into the palate for this one. I also want to ask a question, actually, and that question is going to be, what is your favorite expression? I'll leave that over here on the screen. What's your favorite Mortlach expression? Leave it down below in the comment section, as I'm really interested to hear what you guys like. If you've ever tried a Mortlach, or even if you've never tried a Mortlach, what's your favorite really powerful sherry monster whiskey as well? That's sort of double question. But anyway, let me know down below in the comment section. Let's get into the palate this one, guys. Slanger. Texture-wise, we're starting out with a nice medium full. It's completely different to the 12, which was much lighter in texture. This is a little bit more characterful, a little bit more body about it. You get this sort of appley character, and it's like a toffeed apple, but a very well toffeed apple. It's not one of those ones that you get from a cheap supermarket. It's a little bit more layers to this one. And as you're biting into it, you're finding all these different characters really just sort of coming out at you. After that, you're getting these dry fruits, a sticky date, and it's almost like a sticky date pudding. You get these prunes, these raisins, these darker dry fruits starting to take over, and as they do so, this little bit of this bitter, dark chocolate, this really, and I have to say really, this is a really dark chocolate. Actually, I said that's 6 reallys. That's a bit too much, but it's a dark chocolate. You get my point. Nice and rich, and then you get this little bit of like a herbal bitter note. And I'm almost sort of linking this one to like a tea, like a oolong tea. So really, as those sort of flavors, those dark fruits are there, you get this little bitter, dark chocolatey note, and then this herbal bitter note of this tea note comes in. But when I say bitter, it's not horrible bitter, it's just a soft bitter note. And it's actually quite enjoyable because I love my teas and I love these dark sort of teas as well. So it's really cool getting all these different flavors coming together. It does have a sweet sort of almost, I say a sweet spicier note, like a sweet clove. And then it sort of fades back into the sweeter notes again. And it's like someone's taking these different layers from this whiskey, and it's incredible how many layers this has, because right now it's going back into a sweeter note. It's like a very rich, syrupy treacle. And then it's starting to dry up a little bit more. And I'm just, as you can see, I'm trying to manage all these different layers. It's kind of a lot going on. And it's got this little bit of an oaky presence on the palate now. So a lot going on in this whiskey. I'm going to jump in for a second sip, give you my finishing notes, and then we'll come to our conclusion. So to conclude, the Mortlach 16 Distillers Dram. I'll pop this down over here because I'm going to start talking with my hands a lot more. Flavor profiles on the finish. This one does sink into the jawline, and that's something I have to say I love about a Mortlach whiskey. Nice long finish. You get the spiced apples, a little bit of this even, oh god, it's almost like a treacle, as it's almost nice and syrupy on the palate. Then you get this little bit of an oaky presence, and it feels like it's on the back to mid palate, right on the center as it dries up. But then you are getting a lot of this almost like dried raisins, or like a dried raisin bread developing on the end, which I really like. And this musky note, this sort of damp sort of Dunnage warehouse style character. It's really weird to explain it unless you go and visit one, but it's almost like that. It's really, holy macaroni, that is brilliant. So I'm just trying to savor this moment because it is really good. And the finish on it just keeps going as well. So again, it's long finish. In terms of my rating for this one, I'm going to give it an 88. Now, the reason behind that, I am critiquing this one. I feel I've been critiquing it maybe a little bit too harshly. I could deserve an 89, probably even a 90. But in terms of value for money, do I think it's value for money at £80? I would happily buy this, because the older Flora and Fauna bottling, which you'll see over here somewhere, that is now worth £200. Now, in comparison of the two, actually, let me compare the two actually for you straight off the back. The old Flora and Fauna was a lot more tannins to it, a lot more punchier, a lot more resembling the actual name Beast of Speyside, where it felt like, you literally had an animal sort of taking, clawings at your tongue. And this one feels a little bit more gentle. This doesn't feel like a beast. It feels like the beast had puppies or stuff. It feels like really softer, but you still get the nice sinking feeling into your jawline, but I just want it to be a bit more, punchier, a bit more fruitier, a bit in your face, a bit like a sucker punch, actually. Don't take sucker punches for fun. But anyway, I just felt it just lacks that little bit that I need from a Mortlach. I think if the ABV was shot up to maybe 46, 48, you'd be getting that heaps and bounds. I just don't understand why they didn't do it. But it is a lot more lighter than the Flora and Fauna version. And if you do ever get a chance to find the Flora and Fauna version, I'd say I'd happily pay up to £120 for that. No more, because at the same time, you got to value how much money you keep spending on whiskey. But this one at £80, Really good value. In terms of doesn't need water, doesn't need time, give it that, and it will actually become a bit more softer. At the first, it's a little bit, it needs a little bit of time, I'd say, at the first dram, first neck pour off the actual bottle, it needs it. And I have actually had a bottle of this one as well, which I had in the city, and yeah, first pour was not the greatest, but then as you work your way into the body of this whiskey, it gets a whole lot better. So that's going to be my concluding notes. I'm not going to ramble on any longer because I think I'm going to keep you guys forever. But yeah, 88 out of 100 for the Mortlach 16 Distillers Dram. Let me know if you guys get a chance to try it down below as well. And also answer the question of the day. What's your favorite Mortlach expression or your favorite sherry monster if you haven't tried a Mortlach? Well, this has been me, Jason WhiskyWise, he's there right now, Mr. Bananas. If you have enjoyed, drop it a like. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and I'll leave some other videos on the screen. And we'll catch you for the next video. Splanja.